Good evening. Welcome to Community Friends. This show is produced by the Bully Busters, Debbie and Laurie. Welcome. We survived the winter. We're into springtime now, and a lot of great events happening in the greater Norwich area in the springtime. And hopefully you all survived and you're going to get out there. Earth Day is coming up, so hopefully you're going to be kind to the earth and do some stuff and keeping an eye on your animals out there. But Bully Busters has got a lot of great events coming up. Check us out on Facebook. Our annual event is coming up the first Friday in May, World Youth Day. Come celebrate with us, first Friday in May, outside City Hall, parking deck. Come see what the youth are performing in different cultures, celebrate the youth. It's a free event for the families. We got many different youth coming in, performing in different cultures. That's also the same night as our March of the Upstanders. We kick off World Youth Day with a March of the Upstanders and celebrate being an upstander and speaking out against bullying of all kinds. Come join us, start the movement. We need to speak out against bullying on every step of the way. So my guest here tonight, she's back on, Becca Atkins from Outreach, to talk about another great event she's been doing here in Norwich. And so what's coming up now? What's going on in Outreach now? I know you're doing so many wonderful things.
So we've actually been in an ongoing project for the last several weeks. Outreach and Second Step Players members, and we specifically designed this project for young adults in the mental health system. So we have young adults who have psychiatric disorders coming to work with our Second Step Players who are adults of older ages with mental illnesses. And we've been working with a group from New York City called the Story Pirates.
Okay.
And Story Pirates are teaching artists. So they're, younger, maybe 20 and 30 somethings from New York City who are triple threats. They're teachers and they're also actors, singers, dancers.
Wow.
They're really talented. And what they do normally is with children go into the school systems and teach story writing through improv to help kids with their grammar skills. So that's how they usually approach it.
Okay.
But they agreed to work with us. So we were a different population for them to work with.
Okay.
And they had a good time. We had a good time. They came in and for 3 Saturdays, 4 hours each weekend, and worked with a group of, I think, 16 of us, teaching improvisation exercises followed by writing exercises. So we would do specific improv warm-ups as a group, and then play improv games with a fewer, like scenes, improv scenes, and then they would give us some kind of writing prompt. And everybody would start to develop characters or ideas for fish out of water stories. And at the end of our whole writing, the several writing classes, everybody went home and we had a few days to polish up the stories that had been developing.
Okay.
We submitted all those stories to Story Pirates, and then our teachers we were done with at the end of the class, but the director came in and chose the stories.
Oh,
chose 6 of the, so we have a completely objective person who came in and read all the stories and chose 6 of them to produce into a brand new sketch comedy and music show that Story Pirates are developing and are coming back to town this weekend, March 28th and 29th, to perform.
Wow.
So we wrote it, they're producing it, directing it, and performing it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a little different twist from what we usually do.
So, and you worked in the age group you worked with, it was the young people?
Yeah, we wound up having about half of the group young adults in the mental health system. They put them in that category when they're between about 18 and 30. And we had 9 people who fit that criteria. And then we mixed in, we could have more people than that. We wanted to fill up the class. So we had a board member who's new and who was interested in writing comedy.
Okay.
And then seasoned Second Step Players as well.
So do you want to share some of the stories, or the ones that didn't make it maybe? Or?
Well, you know what? Nobody knows which stories were chosen.
Ah, okay.
I know which stories were chosen, only because I needed to tell the artist who is one of the writers. So she and I are in on the secret because she's developing the program cover for the book and representing the stories that are being done on that program cover. She's an artist.
Oh, wow.
So we know, and we've been sworn to secrecy, so the rest of the writers don't know whether their pieces are being produced or not. But you may see anything from dragons and knights to, it's a kid-friendly show, to I don't know, Wolfgang Puck to psychics. You know, it could be any kinds of characters. But they're all designed on one of two formats. Fish
Okay.
out of water, which is, you know, being in a situation that's unfamiliar to you.
Okay.
Or world's worst. So you think about a topic like, who would be the worst baker in the world? It's like maybe a fish, because the fish can't use his.
Yeah.
It could be anything silly like that. So that was the format the stories were built from.
Okay.
We deliberately did this to be a kid-friendly show because first we've heard people say there's not a lot of entertainment for children
No.
in Norwich, and our shows, we tend to be PG to PG-13 rated. Because we're doing political comedy and satire, and it's just a little bit too much for kids.
Yeah.
But not this one. This one is designed. I mean, in the classes we talked about, like, calm it down, make it kid-friendly. Let's write stories for families.
Okay.
So this one's clean as a whistle and really delightful.
Which is probably helpful because a lot of the adults you're working with, they're probably, oh, wonderful, I can bring something for my kids now.
Yeah,
It helps them,
exactly.
too, to
So,
have an outreach.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to be a fun show.
Yeah. So for the audience that don't know out there, tell them a little bit about what Outreach is and
Okay.
what's it about.
So Outreach is a mental health and arts and wellness community. And the population that we serve is adults who have been diagnosed with psychiatric symptoms, ranging from anxiety and depression to manic depression to schizophrenia. And we run our agency as an arts agency. So the people who are coming to us, what they're doing is making a choice to use their creativity in the service of their recovery. And you do that by, the wellness happens at our place in a number of ways.
Sure.
So there's the intrapersonal, personal growth that happens
Yeah.
participating in the creative projects. There's interpersonal growth because in the groups, we create a specific environment.
Sure.
And I'll say more about that in a minute because that's kind of a big deal about the way that the wellness happens. And then we do community wellness through stigma busting, you know, much like you guys do
Which is
at Bully
important,
Busters.
yeah.
We are raising awareness for stigma really in the mental health system, it's just grown up bullying
yeah.
toward people
Yeah,
with mental
oh,
illnesses.
absolutely. It hasn't stopped, and that's
Right.
why there is the adult mental health.
Right, exactly. So we're trying to reduce some of the negative stereotyping by, you know, we like the phrase "be the change." So we're trying to really put our best foot forward and show the community the kind of kind, smart, funny, talented adults people with mental illnesses can be, and that's forgotten a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted to say about the interpersonal growth too. One of the things that's unique about Outreach is that people who come in, we ask people to make agreements to contribute to an environment that's conducive to wellness. So we're asking people, we say we have a smoke-free, fragrance-free environment. A lot of people who take psychotropic medications have chemical sensitivities. So
Oh,
fragrances really can bother you a
Okay.
lot.
Did not know that.
Or people who are on an autism spectrum sometimes are very sensitive, if they have sensory processing issues, very sensitive to scents.
Oh, okay.
So-
I learned something today. Yeah.
So we're doing when we say smoke-free, we're not asking people to not smoke. What we're asking is that if you're a smoker, you hang around outside for like 15 minutes after you smoke before you come in the building.
Yeah.
And that's a stigma-reducing thing too, because in the old days, in the not-so-distant old days, one of the pieces of stigma that people were upset about is people always say we smell smoky. It's like, well, do you? And maybe you do today. So let's look at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we started really looking at
Yeah.
it. You can't just say we don't like the stigma. You have to say, is it coming from something real?
Yeah.
And if it is,
Yeah.
can we change it and how? So we try to support people to change that.
And the smoking thing, the smoke is part of wellness too. If you can get them to slow back on that too.
It is. And I stop short of telling people that they should stop smoking because it's none of my business.
Sure.
But,
Yeah.
but you know, I cross my fingers and hope they will because I care about them and I'd like for them to live a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the mental health system, I'm sure you've heard the statistic, but people who have chronic psychiatric disorders die an average of 25 years earlier than the rest of the population.
Wow.
And that's horrifying to me because I care about my people.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and that's why we've built the physical wellness activities and like walking club 3 times a week.
Okay.
That's very well attended. A lot of
I was just
people
going
are
to say
going.
they sound like they're receptive to your wellness ideas and programs.
Yeah, a lot of people are. I mean, not everyone who is in Outreach. We have about 80 members total. Not everybody participates in the wellness, but I would say everybody does something toward their own wellness. You know,
Okay.
wherever that, whatever that is for them. For some people, all that is socializing with others in our recreation program,
Okay.
and that's okay. That you know, that's good. They're doing something. And then there are people who are really into personal growth.
Okay.
And so for those people, we're always raising the bar.
Okay. And that inner growth could be in a lot of different ways too, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, we can all do that. I'm always doing that too.
Yeah.
It's like, what do I need to do next? What do I need to look at next?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it depends on where you are in the process, and we like to think we have something for, you know, for everybody.
And then as you have people that come through the program, they come back and do a lot of volunteering with you and giving back and some of the success stories and stuff.
Yeah, sometimes. You know, it's been an interesting thing to look at lately, because a lot of people who've worked with us in Outreach are still working with us in Outreach 20 years later.
God bless.
And
you're one of them.
yeah, I mean, so I'm working there, but I mean people who've been receiving services, have been receiving services that long. And so we've looked at, is there a graduation? Like, when are you done? Because there's been a core static group of people.
Oh, okay.
And in some ways, this is one of the things we've looked at over the years, in some ways it's created dependency because people do love to be with us at Outreach. And I don't want to send anybody away.
Well, because it doesn't
You
go
know,
away. Your
right?
mental health wellness doesn't go away.
Right. And so, yeah, depending
I
on
guess-
what's going
yeah,
on,
yeah.
for many people, the continuity and the longevity is more than they've had with families. I would say it's probably, for me, the most consistent long-term relationship I've ever had.
Yeah.
So I'm really aware of
True.
that. So what we're looking at now is, given that we have a core group of people, and then there's a shell of maybe like 30 people that come in and out. Some people graduate, go on and get jobs, and but what we're looking at is how can we get some more staff so that we can keep all our core people who are really sustaining their recovery there, which is very important, and also be able to have space for more new people to come in
Yeah.
and work with us. And we can't do it with the number of staff we have. We need some more people.
Sure. Which makes sense because, and like you said, if they're in recovery for the rest of their lives
Yeah.
too. So.
Yeah, it depends on the diagnosis. I mean, sometimes people with post-traumatic stress disorder, which is very difficult and painful, but people with PTSD can heal. I mean, you can really heal. And
Yeah.
we know so much more about the brain now and about developing resiliency and rewiring your brain. You can rewire your brain. I know that you guys do this even if you don't call it that. In Bully Busters, when you create the positive environment, and that focusing on the positive is a way to rewire your brain.
Sure.
So we tell people when they come, we're not pretending like there's not negative stuff happening in your life. There might be. We're just not talking about it while we're here. And, you know, in my ulterior motive, that's a mindfulness meditation tool, not getting hooked in the story.
Sure.
So some people who work with us have not done the mindfulness meditation, so I don't just say, don't get hooked in the story, I won't know what I'm talking about. We say, practice the positive,
Okay.
leave the story outside, leave your diagnosis outside. If you're in crisis that day, but being around people would help you, come and just be. And just, you know, tell people you're not into talking, but be and participate how much you can.
Okay.
And it's a really good practice.
Okay.
Because people are used to coming in and, you know, spewing out the story. You'll never believe what happened.
Yeah.
And that's just practicing the negative.
Yeah. And they
It'll-
don't realize it until
That'll
you tell
build a
them.
groove in your brain directly to the unpleasant story. So we want to build the grooves for the more pleasant sensations
Sure.
and make people aware, like when they're in this moment, it's like, wow, you came in here, you didn't feel so good, but how do you feel right now? It's like, well, I feel better. Take that in, notice it. So calling your attention to the positive when it's happening also really changes things.
So how can folks find out about outreach, or if they wanted to volunteer or be part of the programs?
They can, okay. So there are a couple of ways now because we have 2 websites.
Okay.
Yay. We have the Artreach website, which is www.artreachheals.org. So it's ARTREACHHEALS.org. And we have a brandy spanking new Second Step Players website.
Okay.
That's www.secondstepplayers.org.
Okay.
And the secret is that if you really want to stay up on the most recent stuff, you go to the blog on either one of those websites.
Okay.
Because it's the easiest thing for me to update. So the most recent, the upcoming thing is going to be the first thing on that blog.
Okay.
Like Story Pirates for March 28th and 29th. There's a story about that.
Okay.
And you asked about volunteering. I just want to mention that we have now a robust internship program
Okay.
that I actually am supervising right now 14 interns.
God bless.
14 who are doing 10 hours a week, 15 weeks. That's a lot of interns.
Yes.
Which means I've
And where do you fit 'em all?
I've radically shifted my what I'm doing, my duties for the last 6 months to do this program. Where do I fit them all? In base camp on the computer. 12 of them are working from other parts of the country.
Oh, wonderful.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
I have one in Florida. I have 3 in California, one in Maryland, one in Michigan, one in Indiana, and the others I can't name off the top of my head where they are. Wisconsin. So they're working on the business from a distance.
Okay.
And I went through some crash course management training, like real intern supervision, so that I could give them a good enough experience that
Okay.
they would want to do an internship with us. But we're really building that internship, and I intend for that to be an ongoing thing so that people can come and do an internship that will really benefit their career by working with us.
Okay. So do you have some hands-on volunteers you need in this area?
I can always use volunteers at shows.
Okay.
We use volunteers for a lot of stuff to help us fundraise. Dancing in our Thrill the World event in October.
Yep.
That is always a big help. I'm trying to think what's coming up soon that we would use volunteers for.
Okay.
And I'm drawing a blank.
Okay. But you
Did you see
accept
that?
you accept donations for your work?
Oh, you bet. I
Yeah.
mean, we badly need donations
Okay.
for our work. We get some funding from the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services for the psychosocial rehab portion of our program, which means that the work we do in-house, the classes we do in-house, rehearsals, those are funded.
Okay.
And we have to raise, another percentage of our budget through fundraising and ticket sales and tour fees.
Okay.
Because we're not funded to perform.
Okay.
And to me, one of the most valuable things that we do is when the Second Step Players go out and do touring shows
Yeah.
for schools, for
Yeah.
colleges, for nursing programs. And none of that is funded. We support that through the touring fees.
It's a value for the audience and the performers.
It is.
Yeah.
So the performers are getting their value during their rehearsal process, but they also get value out of being educators for providers.
Yeah.
We went to the Inspire conference last weekend
Okay.
up at St. Joseph's, which was a disabilities in the arts conference that was all disabilities.
Okay.
And we were pretty much the voice of mental health at that.
Wow.
It was a lovely conference. It was very small, but National Theater of the Deaf did we alternated workshops with them. They're at the O'Neill now. Did you know that?
No.
So they're close by,
Okay.
which is nice. They're in residence at the O'Neill.
Oh, wonderful.
So they were there, and there was a veterans program with a dance guy who had been a Marine who told us about this program where veterans are funded to go and work for a nonprofit for 6 months in whatever they were doing before they were in the military or what their passion is,
Oh, wow.
so that they can reconnect with who
Oh,
they
that's
want to be
wonderful.
in the next part of their life. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. So you keep pretty busy then out there.
Yeah.
Maybe too big.
I do.
Yeah. So you want to tell them about the event and time and locations
Yes,
again?
so the event is coming up Friday and Saturday, March 28th and 29th. It's at 7:30 p.m. at the Donald Oat Theater in Norwich, which is on the 3rd floor. and it's the Story Pirates. So the Story Pirates, actors from New York, will be performing sketch comedy and music that's family friendly, written by members of Second Step Players, Artreach, and some new young adults who have psychiatric issues.
Okay.
Was that the details?
Yeah.
Did I
And
cover them all?
Pirates is the cool name too nowadays.
Story
ain't it?
Pirates, yeah.
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure why they're called Story Pirates,
Yeah. Yeah.
but because they weren't very pirate-like.
No, oh, they weren't.
No.
No,
They
no.
were nice
Yeah.
and smart and funny and
Okay.
very skilled.
Yeah. And how'd your other events went? I know you did the Christmas show and all
Oh,
that.
the Christmas show was a lot of fun. I was very different from our normal Second Step Players Fair. We had a lot of poetry that was done with props and movement and lighting and music. We had a live musician who was on the spot making music to go with these poetry pieces. They were staged, so we practiced it all together. And then we had some brand new sketch comedy that Cato McNichol wrote.
Okay.
And Darcy Parker Bruce, who's in Norwich, who has a brand new organization called Talk Story.
Okay.
I think we'll hear more about her
Okay.
locally. She's wonderful. And then Dan Potter from the Mystic Paper Beasts
Yep.
came in and did some poetry. He did some poetry, but he also did the puppets and movement.
Okay.
So that was very cool. We enjoyed that, and Cato directed that show
Oh,
for
yeah,
us.
I love
We had
Cato, yeah.
Me too. She did a great job. And I feel like we were more ready for the Story Pirates project after doing the improv exercises with Cato in preparation for the holiday show.
And you find your folks want more and more of this stuff, huh? As you do
Yeah.
more and more.
Absolutely. I mean, they do want more of that stuff. And the writing has been such a big thing over the last few years. We started at the writing classes, I think, in 2009. And now we have two-hour writing classes every week that are peer-run, so they're taught by members of Artreach. And our first teacher was not a member of Artreach. She was a community person from Providence named Annie Geisinger. And
Okay.
She's wonderful. She came in and taught, we called the class Playing with Words,
Okay.
so that it wasn't intimidating. Because if you say poetry class,
Oh, writing class, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So playing with words. And we played word games. We'd draw a word out of a hat and make some kind of a piece together. Or do collective poems where one person would write 2 lines and then you'd pass it. But she taught us a lot of different ways to play with words. And now the 2 people who are leading the classes are, they have a little library of books that they use, and they plan ahead and use some kind of writing prompt.
Okay.
And people for 2 hours fill up the time happily.
Wow.
And are really building their own bodies of work.
Okay.
So we're actually about to create an Artreach blog for the writers, so that we can post some of the work they're doing, because there's some wonderful
Wow.
writers.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of good writers in the
Probably
bunch.
a lot of. You probably finding a lot of poets too.
A lot of poets, yes.
Yeah.
A lot of very rich poetry
Okay.
coming out of those classes.
Yeah. So you've been here, what, how many years?
I've been there since 1993,
Yeah.
so I'm in my 21st year.
So why do you think you're still there?
Why do I think I'm still there? Well, I really care about the people that I work with.
Yeah.
And I feel like the work is not done yet.
Because you could have gone some other places and your field is dance instructing or choreography.
Well, it was originally, and now I'm probably too old to do that. But also, I'm a licensed professional counselor, so
Yeah.
I had intended to eventually cut back on Second Step Players and just do private practice, because it's slower and easier than carrying equipment all over
Yeah.
the place. So, but I'm still there. I really care about it. It's good.
It sounds to me if you did that, you'd be a little bit bored. You're just
Yeah.
sitting in your office and not getting out there.
I couldn't just work in an office.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Although I do enjoy people, it kind of recharges my batteries when I sit and talk to somebody one-on-one, which I don't have a lot of time to do. The way that I work normally, I'm either in a room with a group of people or I'm alone most of the time. It's not usually one-on-one.
Okay.
So that's kind of fun when I get to just work with one person at a slower pace.
Okay.
But I really love the macro change that can happen when you take a theater troupe out and you're educating a big group of people.
In 21 years, you've seen a lot of changes through the mental health issues too.
I've seen a lot of changes in the system. I've seen a lot of ups and downs. I'm not sure exactly where we are right now.
Yeah.
Stigma is different right now. It's hot again because of Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
And so also attention being paid to the mental health system is more. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
And I have concerns in some ways about the way that the attention is being paid.
Sure.
And I have real concerns about the fact that legislation about mental health literally on paper is tied in with gun control.
Yeah.
And I'm like, those are not related issues.
No, and then because then we
They're
know
not.
they're not going to get passed.
So
On top of it.
it just completely blows my mind
Yeah.
that would be okay with anyone.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that changes soon. Some of the good things that are happening are that wellness is being looked at across the board.
Yeah.
And so even at a federal level now,
Yeah.
they're focusing on wellness. And that means physical wellness. It means your diet, as well, teaching people how to work with healthy food, working with stress. I loved the statistic I saw that said 4 out of 5 doctors would prescribe social interaction for stress reduction if they could.
Okay.
Because that's what we do. We do a lot of stress reduction through social interaction.
Yeah.
So how about some of that insurance money coming our way?
Yeah, sure.
Because we're providing the prescription doctors want to write.
So we got a few more minutes. I want to
Okay.
get your event out one more time
Great.
for them.
Wonderful. So on March 28th and 29th at the Donald Oat Theater in Norwich, the Story Pirates from New York City will be performing stories written by members of Artreach and the Second Step Players, which is an arts organization for adults with psychiatric disorders. It was a collaborative effort between Second Step Players and Story Pirates, a grant funded by the Connecticut Office of the Arts. It was a wonderful project. So 7:30, Donald Oat Theater, 3rd floor, March 28th and 29th.
Oh, wonderful. I want to thank you for coming on again. Thank you for all the great work you do with our residents out there and community members. I appreciate it.
You too.
So please check them out this coming Thursday and Friday and Saturday. Friday and Saturday down at the Donald Oat Theater. There is handicap access off of Church Street.
Off Church Street in the back of the theater.
Yeah, so check them out. She gave you the websites, and please check them out, support them, and go out and be a good community friend.